I've got an idea. How about if we end our look at the secondary sector by checking out changes associated with industrialization? Some people might call these things consequences as a result of the Industrial Revolution. That would be both on the individual and on society, and of course, we could add one more thing in, which is on the planet itself. First of all, of course, we went from overwhelmingly primary sector employment, so in other words, farmers, to secondary sector employment, so manufacturing. People went from knowing where their food came from because they produced it themselves or their neighbor produced it or somebody close to them produced it, to having no idea where their food comes from and making products, like for example a Bentley, that get shipped all over the world. Human productivity increased as a result of the Industrial Revolution. Because, of course, in your little backyard garage factory, you cannot be nearly as productive as people working in a highly sophisticated, technologically advanced, automated factory. For example, making automobiles. Incomes increased. I mean, they got to pay us for this stuff, right? Leisure time increased. Because in a lot of cases, you either have the weekends off or 2 days off during the week, a 40-hour work week. In some countries, it's even less than 40 hours. And you get built-in vacations. I want you to understand this, though. I'm a teacher. Teachers do not have paid vacations. We do not have off on the weekends. In fact, I am making this recording at a time when I am not actually being paid to be at work. So I'm not being paid for this, but I'm setting this up in the hopes that I eventually will have you in my class, and that will get me some money. Now, with regard to us having the summers off, yeah, we have the summers off without pay. We're paid on a 10-month schedule. If we work summer school, okay, we get paid for that. But we don't have paid vacations in that traditional sense that people have paid vacations. Nevertheless, if we save our money, we could take summer off. And we could do exactly what you see those two people doing, leisure time increasing. Access to education increased. I'm a living example of this because I come from a blue-collar family and I have multiple college degrees and I get the great privilege of teaching for a living. Many of you guys are probably the first people in your family to go to school and to ultimately graduate from school. It's kind of awesome. This is one of the consequences of the Industrial Revolution, but a good consequence. Access to healthcare. I mean, one of the things that gets factored into your job in a lot of cases is healthcare, because we know we need it, not just for stubbing your toe, but God forbid something happens really, really drastic to you. You want to be able to have healthcare and not go bankrupt having to pay it off. That, of course, has led to increased life expectancy. There's more older people now. Kind of cool. But there's also problems associated with industrialization. Pollution and health-related issues have increased. And of course, that means that we need that healthcare because we're going to breathe that polluted air and drink that awful water that's filled with pollution and everything else that comes out of this. Well, we're going to need the healthcare. But of course, we wouldn't have those other things if we were not willing to accept that pollution and health-related issues increase with industrialization. Cultural changes happened. Like, for example, women not just being in the home and having children. That's right. Being out in the world and having high-powered, important decision-making jobs. Doctors, lawyers, in some countries, presidents of the country. People who are real power brokers. Females. Huge change over the last 250 years. The way we eat. Of course, in the United States, we eat a lot of fast food. But this has all been exported all over the world. And people are doing this. They're eating fast food throughout the world as a result largely of industrialization. And of course, that cuts down on you sitting down and eating with your family. Another consequence has been that in the places that have gone through the Industrial Revolution, the impact of religion diminishes. People have more rapid lifestyles. A picture of the freeway in Los Angeles. We all know it's not that rapid, is it? But sometimes it is. And so you know that everything gets sped up. One of the things that students have told me as a result of the pandemic was that they really liked their lives slowing down a little bit, getting to know their family again. It's kind of a healthy thing in a lot of ways. And then, of course, consumption increased and overconsumption. And again, think about where all of that stuff comes from. Remember, when I was a kid, people parked cars in garages. Now they have become our personal storage units.